207 of those units are 95 to 115% of the AMI, and only 37% of those units are at 60% of the AMI. So I want to vote no for that and no for all of the Innovative Queens rezoning, LUs and resos, accompanying resos. And on the question of Dumbo being the bid getting more money, there was some criticism of it in the finance meeting because they're not transparent, and they haven't put neighborhood residents on the board that are truly neighborhood residents. Some people on the board are real estate neighborhood residents. So I voted yes in finance, but I want to change that to a no vote until they put the right residents on the board, until they engage in transparency. So that's a no vote as well. And I want to, for transparency, say that my son works for BRIC, Brooklyn Media Arts. Aye on all the rest. And I want to commend, once again, for the 100% affordability with CCC and all of the negotiators, my staff. I want to give them credit over the years, and the former council member, Inez Barron, for it started with her and ended 100% affordability with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we call the next vote, I just want to remind members, we do have rules about decorum here in the chamber and how you talk to your colleagues and how you talk about issues and how you talk about things we're working on. I'd ask members to look at those rules again and remind themselves of it before you come to state a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Osei.
I vote aye on all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Bottcher.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
I want to also commend Councilmember Wan on this project that will create homes for thousands and thousands of people who are currently living in the homeless shelter system, and will create lots of housing that will help relieve some of the pressure out there, that will help bring down rents in all of our districts. I vote aye.
Thank you. Brannan.
Congrats, Julie. Aye.
Brewer.
I want to thank everyone who from the staff and from the Speaker's office who has been working on the catalytic converters. I want to thank one of the bids, 125th Street bid. Barbara Askins does a great job with monumental challenges, and I think this extra funding will help. And then finally, I too want to thank Julie Wan. I know what it's like to do maybe 200 ULURPs when I was borough president, and they're all difficult, but this one was particularly difficult, and you did a great job, along with the Speaker's staff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brooks Powers.
First, I'd like to disclose that I'm a member of the Greater Alameda Cathedral of New York. We are voting on a transparency resolution for one of our community programs. Next, I'd like to explain my vote. Majority Leader.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'd like to ask everyone to lift up in prayer my community, as we suffered a tremendous loss recently with a triple homicide in the Springfield Gardens community, where we lost Patricia Johnson, Hysoneth Brown Johnson, and LaToya Gordon. This was a very quiet, quaint community block, and I just really ask that we continue to keep the community lifted in prayer during this time. I also want to thank my colleagues for their work on today's slate of bills, including Councilmember Eric Bottcher for his work on Intro 610 to ensure students have access to crucial resources in times of crisis. I deeply admire Councilmember Bottcher's advocacy on these issues. He's been open and courageous when discussing his own experiences with mental health, and he's a strong advocate for the LGBTQ community. Young people who are a part of the LGBTQ community are more likely to attempt suicide or experience mental health conditions. So I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of this important piece of legislation, which is Intro 610, and I believe we need to do everything we can to help students get the help and support they need. So again, I'm grateful to Councilmember Bottcher for his work around this And with that, I vote aye on all.
Thank you. Kaban.
Aye on all.
Carr.
I'd like to disclose on the record that my spouse is a student at CUNY, and we are funding CUNY in this transparency resolution. And with that, I vote no on Intro 609A and aye on the rest. Thank you, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. De La Rosa.
I'd like to disclose on the record that my daughter is a student in a New York City public school that is listed on the transparency result today, and I vote aye on all.
Thank you. Dinowitz.
Aye on all.
Farias. Thank you.
I'd like to disclose for the record that my sibling attends a New York City public school, MS 127, and my mother works at NYU Langone for this transparency reso. And I vote aye on all. Congrats, Councilmember Juan. It's hard to build on private lands in the way that you did for your community.
Thank you. Felice.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I vote aye on all, and I want to congratulate Councilmember Julie Wan. The affordable housing crisis and the homeless crisis affecting our city is well documented. We resolve that crisis by building affordable housing, and we cannot allow anyone to make any excuses on the issue. We need to build affordable housing. Congratulations, Councilmember Julie Wan, on that well-negotiated agreement, which includes lots of deep affordable housing. It's a great agreement, not only for your district, but it's a great agreement for the rest of our city. So congratulations, aye on all. Thank you.
Thank you. Gennaro.
Aye.
Gutierrez.
Aye.
Hanif.
Aye. Thank you.
Hanks.
Aye on all.
Holden.
I would like to disclose on the record that my son is an adjunct lecturer at CUNY, and we're voting on the transparency reso today. And I'd like to, on my vote, aye on all except for Intro 609A, of which I vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Hudson.
I'd like to disclose on the record that my domestic partner is employed by Planned Parenthood, which we're funding in the transparency resolution. I'm aye on all, and I also want to add that earlier this year I approved a project, private land, private developers with an unprecedented 35% of deeply affordable housing. Councilmember Juan, you took the bar, you raised it, you ran with it, and I am hopeful that this council will continue to raise the bar and that we will get closer and closer to even higher levels of deeply affordability. Thank you. Aye on all.
Thank you. Councilmember Barron.
Yeah, I just want to change that Dumbo vote because I did get a commitment from the Chair of Finance to send a letter to them to deal with transparency and neighborhood residents on the board. So I changed that no to an aye.
And Councilor Roberts speaking, introduction 789, the two bids.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. You got it. Councilmember Joseph.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
Congratulations, Councilmember Juan. Also, I'd like to disclose that my son is a student at in the DOE system that we're voting on today. I got a firsthand glimpse at the mental health facing our city's children and how hard the past couple of years has been on them. The isolation caused by COVID-19 hit us all in real ways, but in particular affected our young people. In the last year alone, more than 11% of New York State's youth had experienced at least one major depressive episode. And of these young people, only 41% of them receive mental health services. That means 85,000 students residing in this city didn't receive any help for their mental health needs. As a result of that failure, hundreds of our young people took their own lives. Every single one of these deaths could have been prevented. It is our job as elected leaders to bring suicide as close to zero as we can. The problem is that while there is help available, many are unaware because they have not been informed of that fact. As the chair of the Council on Education Committee, I'm so proud to have passed this bill along with Eric Boucher. Inform students about suicide prevention and warning signs, as well as how to reach 988 National Suicide Prevention Lifeline and other resources. Informing our students about suicides, giving them the help they need, and how we prevent needless death, and how we can improve the future city mental well-being. This bill is about knowledge, as we all know, knowledge is power. Thanks to Councilmember Eric Botcher for being the driving force behind this bill, as well as my fellow Prime co-sponsor Linda Lee for hard work to make this bill pass a reality. And thank you, Speaker. Thanks as well to the mental health providers and advocates who helped get this bill over the finish line. These leaders can be frequently overlooked, but their dedication and commitment is how the work really gets done on the ground. I vote aye on all.
Thank you. Kagan.
I would like to disclose that my daughter is a CUNY student, and we are voting today for transparency resolution that includes CUNY funding, and I'm voting yes on all.
Thank you. Krishnan.
I just want to disclose on the record that my son is a child within the DOE system, and I vote aye on all. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee.
I would also like to disclose that my child is a student in the DOE system, and I vote aye on all, and congratulations, Councilmember Wan, for a hard-fought battle, and congratulations to my colleagues on all the bills being passed, and I'm excited to pass 2 bills in particular that will address the mental health and opioid crisis, so thank you.
Lewis.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Majority Leader and Speaker. First, I want to commend all bill sponsors on the vote today. I want to personally commend Councilmember Wan on your efforts to stand with your community. I know this process wasn't easy for you, but I want to commend you for standing with your community. I want to congratulate and thank former Councilmember Inez Barron, Councilmember Barron himself, for your support and leadership on the East New York Innovative Urban Village project. And I want to thank Senior Pastor A.R. Bernard from CCC for staying the course and for allowing God to lead and ensure this project became the reality that he envisioned. It took 6 years, sleepless nights, much diligence, and many contentious fights and hard work to get to this point where East New York Innovative Village is now a reality, resulting in partnerships, and it equates to shared values that strikes the right balance for the community to receive both affordability and feasibility so that they can continue to thrive. Lastly, I would be remiss if I didn't use this moment to share my disdain regarding a major human rights issue facing Haitian descendants in the Dominican Republic. And if I could get an opportunity later, I'd like to share more. Thank you. I vote aye on all.
Thank you, Councilmember. Marte.
I vote aye.
Mealy.
I vote aye.
Menon.
I vote aye.
Moya.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Narcisse.
Second, to explain my vote, please.
Go ahead.
I want to say thank you and congratulate to Councilmember Wan for, fighting through this and ask for the support. While we have private lands and city lands, so not every time we're going to have project 100% of what we want, but you show the leadership, and I want to say thank you to you. And Eric, I am so proud of you for Intro 610. It's a needed introduction for the time that we're going through. There's so much mental health and suicide around us. And I want to say thank you to Madam Speaker for being the leader that you are in the time that is very difficult. And there's tests that we under a lot of tests all the time, but for your strength, for standing and pushing us through and helping us and holding our hands to some matter. So I want to say thank you, and let's continue. There is a need, there is a crisis in our city for housing, but being the person that you are, I want to say thank you. And for my colleague, Charles, that's been fighting for East New York, so I want to say thank you for that, and I'm hoping that I have public land, city land on my part so I can have 100% like you, so thank you. Oh, I vote aye, sorry.
Thank you. Nurse. Palladino.
vote aye on all, and just want to congratulate Council Members Juan and Barron and the Dumbo bid, who do a really great job in our community. So really pleased that we were able to increase their assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Richardson Jordan.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
I just want to say again, and I've said it before, how profoundly undemocratic the land use process is. And while I do think I feel there's something inherently imperialist about weighing in on other people's communities, I do want to just urge my colleagues to work towards community standards with your community in a democratic way and then stick to them as we have done in District 9. I also want to congratulate the 125th Street bid, and aye on all. Thank you.
Thank you. Riley.
I just want to disclose for the record that both my daughters are students in the DOE, and I vote aye on all. Thank you.
Thank you. Rivera.
I vote aye.
Thank you. Salamanca. Sanchez.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
First, I'd like to disclose on the record that my brother works at CUNY BMTC. And then I'd also want to extend a deep congratulations to Councilmember Juan for a hard-fought negotiation. And I just want to make a statement for progeny, I suppose. But we elected a majority female council of powerful women. And I just want to make sure that we, in these conversations, and as we congratulate Councilmember Juan, we also continue to stand by strong women, not just because we're strong women, but when we are values aligned and we're fighting for things that we believe for and we share beliefs, deeper affordability, a better New York, that we stand by each other. So with that, I vote aye on all, and congratulations to my colleagues.
Thank you. Schulman.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
I actually wasn't going to say anything, but I am now. So one, I want to congratulate my colleague, Councilmember Julie Juan, and I want to say, as somebody who was a member of the Zoning and Franchise Subcommittee, got my own pressures in terms of how to vote on this, and every time that I got asked the question, I said, it's up to the member to negotiate this out, and I wasn't going to say anything until that happened, and I was in direct contact with her, which is the way it should be. We should keep in mind this is private property. This isn't city property. She did the best that she could do, and not only that, she got more than probably anybody else would have. So I want to congratulate her, and I also want to say that without the speaker's leadership, this wouldn't have happened either. So I wanted to say that, and with that, I say aye on all.
Thank you. Stevens.
Aye on all.
Ung. Velasquez.
Permission to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I'd like to disclose my brother is a board member of Samaritans New York. My husband is a deputy commissioner of DEP. With that being said, I want to thank Council Members Botcher and Joseph for 610A. It is deeply, deeply personal for me and my family, and thank you. Thank you for that. I also want to give a shout out to my girl, Councilmember Juan. It wasn't easy. Trust me, I've been in those shoes very, very, very publicly. And at the end of the day, you did what was right. And you stuck to your guns. And I'm always here to keep on supporting not only yourself, but other council members who are here to actually build within the community and move each other forward. So thank you so much for that. Lastly, I'd like to vote aye on all with the exception of 609A, which I abstain.
Thank you. Councilmember Barron.
Yeah, just for a point of clarification, to my colleague, my project is not city-owned land. It is not city-owned land. It's privately owned. Many of my projects are privately owned. So I think we need to get clear when you say things to make it appear as though unless it's city-owned land, you can't get affordability. We've gotten 100% affordability on privately owned land. This is not city-owned land.
Thank you. Vernikov.
I vote aye on all except no on 609A. Thank you.
Thank you. Williams.
I'd just like to disclose for the record that I'm a CUNY student receiving fellowship support, and I vote aye on all. Congrats, Councilmember Juan.
Thank you. Juan.
Permission to explain my vote?
Go ahead.
I just want to show my extreme thank and gratitude to all of my colleagues and the speaker and the mayor. And, you know, the negotiations, I always knew that it was going to be a compromise, and we got to a level, of course, I want more for my community, and I will continue to fight for more in all of my battles for land use. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone holding the line with me and just showing so much support today, because it is not easy when your community is disappointed and sad, but we know that we're doing the best that we can in the circumstances that we're in during an affordable housing crisis. Thank you. Sorry, aye on all.
Thank you. Yeager.
Maybe excuse to explain my vote.
Go ahead.
I'll just be very brief. Thank you very much. As you can imagine, I'll be voting no on Introduction 789. I just want to briefly point out one of these bids, the total assessment is going up by 100%. The other one, it is going up by 36%. They are cold bid assessments. They are tax increases. There's no question about it, and we ought to at least say so. So I'm here to say so. I vote aye on all with the exception of Introduction 609 and Introduction 789. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember. Borelli.
Permission to briefly explain my vote.
Briefly permitted.
And thank you, Majority Leader, for reminding us of the rules today. We shouldn't call each other by name, but perhaps Karen would be an appropriate name. I'm kidding with you, Keith. I'm kidding. That was my joke.
Permission taken away.
But what I'm not joking about is something that we've all sort of hinted around, those of us who explain their votes and discuss the rezoning, and that's the concept of member deference. And it's sometimes a dirty word. It's sometimes a word that people like to fight about and argue about whether we should have it or not. I just want to remind everyone in this room that each of you are the only real elected representatives at the municipal level of what would be the 150th largest city in the United States of America. All of you represent about 172,000 people now. And unlike the 149th city and up, you are the only person that represents them on a municipal level. And I always use the comparison with one of my favorite places, Savannah, Georgia. In Savannah, you elect a mayor, 2 council members at large, a district council member, and a legislator for Chatham County. All of those people represent the people of the city of Savannah, smaller than your district, and you are expected to have the power of all of those people. So whether you like it or not, and whether your constituents like it or not, you're their only voice. So don't be quick to cast aside the idea that we should be supportive of our colleagues. No matter what their vision, no matter what their goals, they should be the one, in my opinion, who should have the final say on what gets built in what would be the 150th largest city in America. With that, I vote aye on all except Intro 609. Thank you.
Thank you. Powers.
Thank you, Councilmember Borelli. Always enlightening when you get up and share your thoughts with us. I'm voting aye. I want to say a very big congratulations to Councilmember Juan for staying at the table and driving a very, very good deal for not only constituents in Queens, but also for people citywide and people that don't even live here yet, who are going to have the opportunity to live in a great neighborhood and live in a great place to live. So I think it really shows a lot of strength there to be able to cut a deal that I think will be transformative, and I think on its own represents almost more housing than we will have approved this year before now. So I think we have now doubled that. And I, of course, want to thank the speaker and all the staff for support on this quest to try to create a more affordable city and create not only the housing supply we need, but also to empower members to get to the table and stay there and like Councilmember Juan has shown, drive a deal that will be generous to everyone that is here and everyone that is coming next, and to create a city that we all deserve. So with that, I vote aye on all.
Thank you. Speaker Adams.
I vote aye.
All items on today's general order calendar are adopted by a vote of 47 in the affirmative, 0 negative, and 0 abstentions, with the exception of introduction 609A, which is adopted by a vote of 40 in the affirmative, 6 in the negative, and 1 abstention, and land use item 147 and resolution 398, adopted by a vote of 46 in the affirmative, 1 negative, and 0 abstentions. Land use items 126 through 134 and accompanying resolutions adopted by a vote of 46 in the affirmative, 1 negative, and 0 abstentions, and introduction 789, adopted by a vote of 46 in the affirmative, 1 negative, and 0 abstentions. We'll now move to the introduction and reading of bills.
All bills have been referred to committees as indicated on today's agenda.
Thank you. There are no resolutions on today's calendar, so we'll move into general discussion. And we will first call on Councilmember Gennaro, followed by Councilmember Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. I just want to point out to my colleagues that today is the 59th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. He doesn't get a lot of attention these days, but he should certainly be remembered, and very hard to paint a picture of those who don't remember that day. But it was a day of sorrow that I can't describe. Gail is raising her hand saying that she remembers, and I'm sure some people remember. But we were let out of school early that day. Catholic school, the nuns were going nuts. It was a very sad, tragic day, and I always depended upon my dad, World War II vet, who could abide any situation and make everything right, make everything feel okay. And I walked into the house, and he closed his business early. He was kneeling in front of the television set, crying his eyes out, saying the rosary, like with the rosary beads in his hand. He was completely destroyed, and I knew that my rock would, if something could get to him, then the world was never going to be the same again. And it's a poignant day. I could go on, but the grief cannot be imagined what it did to the country, and I just think it fitting to remember him, and there you have it.
Thank you. We're going to go to Councilmember Barron, and before we do that, I was asked by Councilmember Riley to inform members of the BLAC to stay here in the chamber afterwards to take a picture.
Thank you once again to my colleagues. We are the only conscious, we are the only power that the people really have. And the reason why I constantly tell you to use your power on behalf of the people, not a speaker, not a mayor, not a borough president. Speaker has 1 vote, mayor has none, and the borough president has none. You have 50 votes. And if you would have said for the council member, look, we're going to go with you on your definition of affordability for your community, and at 55%, they would have told you that we won't do it if you stay there. And they would have come back to the table like so many of them have. 1 or 2 may go away and never come back, and they'll try to blame that on you, that you're anti-development. But I just want to encourage you to allow yourselves to be strong. The councilwoman has to go against a large segment of her community to get this done, and that didn't have to be. That did not have to be. If you would have stood strong with her when she was at 55%. And no matter what they said, I've seen it in my 20 years, they told me it's not economically feasible. We pay too much for the land. If we do that affordability, then we're gonna have to raise the rents. All of that stuff, and when I said, no, go ahead, they come back to the table. And to my colleague, do your research before you start saying stuff. A lot of my projects are not city-owned land. It's privately owned and city-owned. But when we stay together as a council, you are the power. You are the power around anything, a budget any legislation, all of the development stuff that comes in, the people in this city are counting on you because you have the power and you should exercise it on behalf of the people, not
Thank
on
you,
your
Councilor.
personal interest.
We're going to go now to Councilmember Jordan, followed by Councilmember Caban.
Hi, everyone. So again, I want to congratulate Councilman Barron on his project, but I also would like to congratulate all the housing advocates and activists who won a significant victory last week in pushing the mayor to expand much-needed rental assistance. We cannot continue to call the current housing situation a crisis while using a status quo approach. This is what got us here in the first place. This is why we must do more, and I am introducing a bill that would push city departments towards using housing-first strategies. As our city continues to manage the influx of migrants who deserve compassion and care, and also Black unhoused who have been here for generations, who also deserve compassion and care, we must move beyond the shelter system. My bill would amend the duties of the Department of Homeless Services Commissioner to emphasize permanent housing. It would clarify DHS housing readiness training and require the Commissioner to give an annual report on such and post it online. It would also require the Commissioner to make DHS permanent housing clearinghouse available to each transitional housing facility, who would create a plan to utilize the clearinghouse to help move folks into permanent housing. Lastly, it would update the 5-year plan to relieve homelessness and houselessness and require the Commissioner to post the plan on the DHS website. We know from experts that prioritizing permanent housing leads to an increased sense of agency, stability, and participation in support services. It can also save this city millions by avoiding expensive emergency service costs. This bill would be crucial in removing barriers and starting needed coordination between departments to plan methods to house all of the unhoused in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Caban, followed by Councilmember Farias.
Yes, I'll be super brief. I'm proud to be introducing 2 resolutions today that are really dear to me. The first calls for the end to the Luma energy contract in Puerto Rico and immediately transitioning to a new public corporation based on democratic governance principles. Privatization has failed at reducing costs, improving service, or depoliticizing the electrical system, which is essential to the well-being of the island, and it's time for the power to be in the hands of the people. And so I want to thank some of my fellow Boricua council members for their partnership, Council members Aviles, Rivera, Farias, Velasquez, Deputy Speaker Ayala, Council member Stevens, and then also ask y'all, I am preparing a letter to send directly to the governor of Puerto Rico and would love to have y'all sign on that. I know most of you have. And then the second is a resolution that Councilmember Nurse and I are introducing in partnership with the dedicated advocates of the Campaign to Release Aging People in Prison, also known as RAP, and it calls for Governor Hochul to use her clemency powers frequently, inclusively, and transparently, as well as to pass the state bills for fair and timely parole and elder parole, and I would encourage my peers to visit NewYorkersForClemency.com and to get to know some of the faces of clemency. And just a quick thank you to policy analysts Chad Benjamin and Regina Paul for drafting those resos. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilmember Farias, followed by Councilmember Gutierrez.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I'm introducing a bill today, Intro 821, which is very personal to my district and many residents of the Bronx. In May of this year, my district had several positive cases of Legionnaires, as did many other districts across the Bronx, where we even had some fatalities. I've spoken about this before, but I'm excited to be introducing this bill as it is urgent and necessary as we see the water quality issues continue to exist throughout our city and in our boroughs. With this bill, we have an opportunity to be proactive and establish real protocols that mitigate risk. This is a complex issue that could be solved with a simple, cost-effective solution that's listed in my bill. And I'm encouraging and asking all of my colleagues to put your communities first and to sign on to Intro 821. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gutierrez, followed by Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Today, I'm introducing two bills to add to the package of bills introduced by my colleagues and the increasingly serious conversation around the proliferation of e-bikes across New York City. E-bikes are a key tool of a workforce that is essential to our city's economy, and our delivery workers need and deserve the same safety protections as anyone else in a dangerous job. After the oversight hearing a few weeks ago with the Committee on Fire and Emergency, the two bills I'm introducing today look towards how we can create a new safe career path that contributes to the economy and enables New Yorkers to provide for their families. Intro 892 would establish a battery safety certification for e-bike battery mechanics. This would not only establish standards that could improve the safety of batteries and prolong their usage, which helps workers, it would also create a pathway for new careers. There are already hundreds of deliveristas who are doing this mechanical work, and as a council, we should be supporting and standardizing it so that it becomes a safe and viable career option. I'm also introducing a resolution calling on the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission to establish rules and regulations for the safe sale and use of e-bike batteries. As a city and state, we will continue to do what we can to regulate this market, but as long as there are unsafe batteries flowing into the country unregulated, we are facing an uphill battle. There have been close to 200 e-bike battery fires in New York alone in the past 2 years, including children, and it's time the federal government steps in to regulate these products. I also want to wish my daughter a happy early birthday. She's turning 1 year old on Sunday. That's right. I finally finished being pregnant last year.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Councilmember Lewis, followed by Councilmember Ressler, and finally Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Majority Leader. As I shared earlier, I wanted to share my disdain regarding a major human rights issue facing Haitian descendants in the Dominican Republic. The Haitian diaspora around the world are troubled with news regarding the expulsion of Haitians in the Dominican Republic to Haiti, and we're calling on the Dominican Republic to cease forced deportations of Haitian migrants and people of Haitian ancestry amid a growing human rights crisis in Haiti, and I'm sure all of you have seen that in the news. So I'm also asking this council to stand with Haitians and Haiti as we do for every other racial and social justice issue in this city, every human rights issue in this city. We're asking for you to also stand with us and not to forget that Haitians are descendants of Africa and that these are the same people that helped to build this nation. So we hope to get the support of this council. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Go to Councilmember Ressler and Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you, Majority Leader. There are 500,000 dogs in New York City. 500,000 dogs, but only 84 dog runs in New York City parks. That is one dog run for every 6,000 dogs. 21 council districts have 0 dog runs in your parks, and 12 council districts have just 1 dog run in their local parks. That means that in 2/3 of the council districts in New York City, there is 1 or 0 dog runs in your local parks. That doesn't make any sense. And you want to know what's even worse? Dog runs are the one portion in a park that the Parks Department doesn't take any responsibility for. They think it's up to all of us, up to neighbors, to clean, to maintain, to improve the conditions in our dog runs. The conditions are totally unacceptable. They are deplorable. There is no drainage in most of the dog runs, and our dogs are living in filth. We all love our dogs. They bring joy. They deserve a decent place to run around and exercise and socialize. So we've introduced 2 pieces of legislation today, and I hope you'll all co-sponsor them. One, for the Parks Department to identify 5 viable dog runs in every community district in New York City, and 2, for the Parks Department to take responsibility for maintaining our dog runs. This is common sense, basic stuff that we should have done a long time ago, but together, this council, we can look out for our dogs. I know Speaker Adams cares about her dog more than anyone. She really does. So let's make it happen. Thank you all.
Thank you for your vigor on the issue, Councilmember Ressler. We'll go to Councilmember Brewer.
My dog runs have drainage. I just want to let you know. Okay, we have drainage. A few things. Number one, I want to thank Councilmember Gutierrez and everyone who's working on this issue of the batteries. It is complicated. We have other bills that we've introduced, but this one would basically, 819, say that there should be safety guides wherever there is batteries sold. On the other hand, we have to do a lot about the batteries. Number two, Richard Murphy was a youth commissioner under Mayor Dinkins. He has passed. But he always said every young person in the public school should get a water bottle, and there should be water filling stations everywhere. It's hard to tell people not to have sugar drinks if it's hard to find the water. So this would start the discussion with every fire station, police station, and so on should have a publicly accessible water bottle filling area. And then we'll work on getting it in more places and every young person getting them a water bottle. I also want to just say we're all very supportive, at least I am, of Temporary Schedule Change Act, but we need to do some consumer and worker outreach, and that's Intro 18. And then I appreciate very much the upcoming helicopter oversight hearing. This bill, Resolution 389, would just talk about we've got to get rid of the Hudson River Park Trust heliport. This would say don't have any helicopters flying out of it. We've been trying on every level. What we really need is the federal government to come forward and say, no helicopter, non-essential, over any city of over 8 million. That's us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we have one more. We have Councilmember Yeager.
I'll be very brief. I'm rising to object to the use of the term common sense to describe, as the gentleman used to describe those bills. That's it for me. Thank you.
Oversight.
Objection overruled.
Apparently.
Well, now, I'll call on Speaker Agent Adams to close out today's meeting.
I was remiss in disclosing that I, too, am a member of the Greater Allen AME Cathedral, and they are in our transparency resolution today. I also want to just say to this body, number one, how amazing you all are. And in addition to that, decorum should always be upheld in these chambers. And repeating unvalidated hearsay is egregious at best. We can and should do better. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. The stated meeting of November 22, 2022 is hereby adjourned.